You talked about what the Fed was projecting going forward. We can also take a look at Commerce Secretary nominee and Treasury with Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent. And of course, we talk about Trump is not good at talking about policy or having plans, maybe as a concept of a plan. These guys are a little bit better at that, and Wall Street and the market certainly like them talking about policy a lot more than they do when Trump talks about policy. And they said a lot of what you just talked about. Tariffs, they see it as a bargaining chip. And I don't know if you've ever heard Trump say it. I don't think I have, but these guys, Lutnick has said, we only want to tariff goods that we make. We would be silly to tariff goods that we don't make.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That would lead to some of those price increases, significant price increases. And that's the scary one, because Trump usually doesn't distinguish between the two. And then you get the headlines of, if he does this, there's going to be recession.
Right. I think Ricardo's comparative advantage is how we understand tariffs, and tariffs are going to increase costs as net. But that's not what we're talking about as standalone. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to try to grow bananas in Maine, right? You want to export your maple syrup in exchange for bananas. Another thing we don't want to do here in the U.S. is make snow globes. There are things that we just don't want to do in the U.S., but there are things that we do want to bring more of. I think semiconductors is obviously an area that we want to do more of that here in the U.S. And if you're using tariffs as a bargaining chip and creating incentives for companies to invest here, not only is that probably good for the human capital here and favoring a lot of the higher tech jobs, but there's a lot of reciprocal things that happen, which was mentioned in the video. In the video that we posted, is that you actually have a lot of secondary and tertiary effects that would probably be a benefit to many people in the U.S. Will prices go up? Yes, but with the amount of AI and productivity gains that we're having, it probably isn't a one-to-one ratio type of component that you think and see in financial models where it's just you just continue to ratchet up. There's a lot of effects that are going to be popping up as deflationary just as much as there are inflationary.
Right. And these guys have both said they don't want to see this happen day one. They want it to phase in with tariffs to help exactly what you just said, no shocks, and really set up policy. And they said the same things you just said, disinflation from deregulation, energy prices down, and then the big one, if it can happen, budget deficit. I think that's probably reducing that. I don't know if that's...
I give that the lowest probability.
Yes.
And ultimately, why we're going to continue to be in an inflationary world, despite the indexes of government spending more money than it's collecting, it's got to get it from somewhere, and that's the central bank. So there's the easing, despite where interest rates are. But we'll get too wonky if we get into that.